All right, thanks.
All right, let's get back to the immigration issue. President Obama making an emergency appeal to keep his executive order in place. All rise. Judge Andrew Napolitano is here. All right, the president really seems to have drawn a line in the sand, and this is going to come to a head sometime this week.
You know, it's very interesting, Charles, particularly for a lot of viewers on the show. Even though the government has been enjoined, stopped by a federal judge from implementing the president's executive orders, and there's about a half a dozen of them, the government has not stopped preparing for that implementation. As we speak, it's putting out contracts for bids to process the 4.7 million or 5 million, whatever the number of illegals. The president today plans to have the Justice Department file for an emergency appeal. Guess what? They have to ask for permission to appeal, and if the permission is granted, then they have to ask for the appeal. So it's a two-step process. Appellate courts ordinarily do not like to interfere with decisions of trial judges in the federal system until the end of the case. This is the very beginning of the case. This is what's called a preliminary injunction. So what the judge in Texas did a week ago today was review the papers, hear oral arguments, say the feds are likely to lose. Right. And if I don't stop this now, once it starts, there'll be no way to undo it, and that's irreparable harm to the states and to the people involved, so I'm going to enjoin everybody. If this case goes back to that trial judge, if the appellate court does not interfere, guess what? Obama amnesty is dead. Why do I say that? It'll take a year and a half for the judge to sort it out. What happens a year and a half from now? A new president comes in.
But ultimately, this will go to the Supreme Court. I mean, we know that
it may not go to the Supreme Court if the appeals court decides not to intercede.
And a Republican takes over office.
Correct.
And it will be sort of a moot point at that time.
Correct. If the appeals court intercedes or the trial judge reverses himself, not unheard of, but unlikely, I can see it going up the food chain in the next year and a half during President Obama's remaining term in office.
Judge, I've read the blurbs on this from the left and the right, and they both the left says it's pretty thin, it's not well thought out, it's not going to hold up. The right saying, hey, this judge has laid out the reasoning, the constitutional reasoning why this is illegal. We heard the same thing with Obamacare, and when it got to the Supreme Court, most of the betting was that it would be deemed unconstitutional. Right,
and they found a bizarre way to find it constitutional.
Right. I mean, so it's hard at this point to understand just if it did land in the Supreme Court, what the ruling might be.
When a judge rules against you, he or she is an activist who doesn't understand their job. When they rule in your favor, they're a wonderful legal scholar, and they're courageous, and they're doing the right thing. So really, where you sit depends on where you stand on this case. Trying to evaluate this from as neutral a point as I can be. And I'm not neutral because I honestly believe the president was wrong to rewrite the law. This is the most philosophically conservative federal appeals court in the nation. There's 28 judges on it. 25 of them were appointed by Republican presidents. I think it's unlikely that they will interfere. But, we'll know by the end of the week. It's an emergency appeal. They have to rule right away. They're either going to say, we're not going to get involved, or we are going to get involved, and we'll tell you when we'll give you a ruling on the merits.
I got to tell you, I don't know if it's arrogance or just smart government to continue to act like this is going to go through on the Obama administration's part. But it's worrisome. It's really problematic.
Well, and it irritates judges when you do that, when you find little sneaky ways to try and get around the court order. One of the things that the judge did in this case was he said to the lawyers for the Justice Department, did the president change the law? The Justice Department said absolutely not. When the Justice Department said no, the judge pulled up 22 quotations from the president in which he boasted that he changed the law.
Judge, thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.